Hi everyone and welcome to the Simple Knit podcast. My name is Elina and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Simple Knit Co. Thank you so much for taking some time to spend with me today talking all things knitting. If this is your first episode, thank you so much for watching, and if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for taking some more time to spend with me. It's wonderful to see you again. So before we get on to the knitting content this week, I think we just need to, I feel like I should just acknowledge the ways that the white nonsense hit the fan this week on knitting Instagram. I'm sure you all know what went down, if either because you're probably on Instagram or you watch other knitting podcasts. So I'm not going to rehash any of it, but I just wanted to say that it's the worst. White ladies are historically the worst, and I also just want to acknowledge my complicity in white supremacy and the fact that I have known that this is a problem. It's something that I do my best to be aware of as a white lady who moves through the world with an insane amount of privilege. I'm very aware of that, and I have been aware of the issues within the knitting community, but I haven't said anything and I haven't done anything, and that is just out of laziness. But that laziness is complicity with white supremacy, and that's just straight up not good enough, and I need to reflect on that and be better. I just need to be better. White feminism has always been racist. Historically, white feminism has leveraged white supremacy for women's benefits at the expense of people of colour. If you look at Australia, we've had suffrage for women since 1902, but Aboriginal people were not even classed as citizens of their own country until 1967. And I mean, there's nothing more you can say. That's just, it's disgusting. And I mean, if you just look up racism and the suffrage movement, you can read about that for yourself. But I mean, living in Australia, where it's an incredibly racist country, it's something I think about every day. But when it gets exhausting and upsetting, I can shut it out and turn it off. But if you are an Indigenous Australian, if you're a person of colour, if you're a person imprisoned in an offshore detention centre for no crime, you don't get to shut it off, because that's your life every single day. And I need to be better. I need to be a better ally, because if that's the way your life has been politicised, you don't ever get to shut it off and think about something else. I want to be better. I'll link some articles down below by some Indigenous Australians. If you are Australian, it's coming up to January 26th, which is a holiday that I personally don't acknowledge, because I don't think that imperialism and colonialism is something worth celebrating. I'll link some articles down below by some Indigenous writers about why the way we acknowledge January 26th needs to change. But I do have a couple of book recommendations for you if you want to, start thinking about these issues more. First one is Hate Race by Maxine Beneba Clarke. Maxine Beneba Clarke is an amazing author, poet, general badass. This is her memoir about kind of growing up as a black child and a black woman in white middle class Australia, and really about kind of the microaggressions that she has to face every single day. It is, I think, should be essential reading. I think it's on the syllabus for the VCE in Victoria. Highly recommend that. A really great Indigenous author who is local to me, Melissa Lucashenko. This is her book Mullumbimby, which is a really great novel that looks at the realities of the land rights and native title claims in the 21st century, and it's just a really great, really engaging read. All of her books are really fantastic. She has about four 4 or 5 novels out now. Steam Pigs is another really good one. And the last one is National Treasure, Kim Scott. That Deadman Dance. This book is about interactions between white settlers and Indigenous Australians in Western Australia at the time of colonisation, and this is really fantastic. Yeah, it really still speaks to the way that relationships between white Australians and Indigenous Australians still are today. So I'll put links to all of those below as well, but it's just something that I think we all need to be aware of, and we all need to think about more actively, not just to think, oh, that's crap, but what can I do to be better? The day before all of this went down, the Oprah Magazine Twitter account, Instagram account, posted a quote from Maya Angelou that it says, "Do your best until you know better, and when you know better, do better." And I think that just sums it up, really. So that's the 3rd time I've done that, and I've managed to get it like just over 5 minutes. I think I'm not going to be able to be any quicker than that, but ooh, deserve a coffee after that. Deserve. If you do have any other thoughts, obviously respectful thoughts, feel free to leave them down below. But yeah, any nonsense I will be just straight up deleting, because it's my channel and I can do what I like. So now on to the good stuff, which is the knitting. I have one finished object this week, and that is my link hat. Talked about this the last couple of episodes. Oh, there we go, that's a good colour. So this is the link hat by Emily Green. I've knit it in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the colourway Fauna, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's this nice murky greeny brown that has flecks of bright green and yellow and red all through it that just make it really interesting. And it's this really gorgeous, really simple cable pattern. There are 2 options in the pattern for either a folded brim or just, you know, straight into the pattern. I went for the folded brim and pom-pom on the top. I still have a little bit of yarn left over from 2 skeins, so it's kind of the perfect amount, and I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I find often beanies just end up being a bit too big. I have quite a small head, a dainty head, if you will. So let's see. I do have my hair up, so it's going to look a bit weird, but it fits quite slouchy on me. Someone with a bigger head, it would probably fit a little bit better, but that's probably how I'll wear it. I'll last for about 7 seconds because it is so hot today, but I'm actually really happy with the fit. As I said, I'd originally bought this yarn to make a bracket hat out of, but I just couldn't get a gauge that made a hat that wasn't massive, just too massive. So this is a really good fit for me. It'll be super cozy. It does just come in the one size, I think, but this would definitely stretch over quite a large head. So yeah, that is the link hat. I think I knit it on the recommended needle size. No, yes, I knit it on the recommended needle size. So that was 4.5 millimeters for the body, 3.75 for the rib, and a 3.5 for the tubular cast on. I did do for the first time a 2x2 rib tubular cast on. So you do the regular tubular and then rearrange the stitches to make it a 2x2 rib instead of a 1x1 rib, and that worked really well. The first time I'd done it, but it worked really, really well. But yeah, I'm super happy with this, and now it will go into hibernation for a few months until it is chilly enough to wear it. But yeah, definitely highly recommend. It's a great pattern. It was really easy. The charts were really easy to follow, and yeah, really happy with that. So that's my finished object for this week. I have 2 projects that I have been actively working on. The first one here is my Ginsberg shrug. I've talked about it so many times and I forgot the name. So this is the Ginsberg Shrug, which is an amazing pattern by Nora Gone, who for Brooklyn Tweed as well. Brooklyn Tweed show at the moment. I'm knitting it in Brooklyn Tweed Quarry in the Serpentine colorway, and it is part of the Yarn & Co make along, which I've spoken about in previous episodes as well, but we'll link to down below. So I think last time I saw you, I'd just done this back piece, so done up to here, and so then what you do next is pick up the stitches for the fronts and knit them 2 at a time from the front. So these will come then up and around and down, and then you just seam up the sides and pop some ribbing along the bottom, and then do a little tiny bit of sleeve. So I'm happily chugging along with this one. As you can see, it's written in a really cool way that there's just one chart for the front and the back, but for each side you do like a different section of the chart. So it's written in a way that's quite easy to follow, but yeah, it just has the one chart. I did print out for my own not so smart brain I print out 2 copies of the chart and just highlighted like I had one for the back and one for the front, and just highlighted the boundaries that I would be knitting for each side I should say, and that's made it a bit easier to follow. But now, because it's the same chart for the back and the front, because I've done the whole back piece, I'm quite familiar with it, so I'm not as tied to the chart as I was, and yeah, it's going really, really well. I love this colorway so much. There are so many beautiful variegations within the green, little flecks of yellows and blues that just make it really, really beautiful to look at. And yeah, I think green is probably my favorite color, and this is just going to be a really lovely, versatile piece to wear. As I said, when I picked the pattern, I wanted something in kind of a bulkier weight, cozy yarn, but because I live in such a hot climate, like a big cardigan or a big jumper wasn't going to be a good option, because I just wouldn't get a lot of wear out of it. So this kind of shrug with like shorter sleeves will be perfect, because it'll still be nice and cozy, but I'll actually be able to wear it and not just sit and look at it. Yeah, so I'm super, super thrilled with how this is going. I'm knitting on 6mm needles. I feel like that's a size smaller than recommended. Quarry is quite a delicate yarn, so I'm definitely probably not pulling on it and as hard and as tightly as I typically would. But yeah, 6mm needles, just knitting them the back pieces 2 at a time, and yeah, just still chugging along with this one. The year has definitely kicked off very busy, so I've not had as much knitting time as I would like, but it's really just my own time management that needs to be improved, I think, because I'm loving knitting on this, even though I have to kind of sit with it on my person, which is almost unbearable. But if you get a bit of a breeze, it's going okay, and it's also just getting huge, so it's definitely going to, I think, need to graduate to a bigger project bag very soon. The other project I'm knitting on, I'm still going on my Honey Bear socks by Nomadic Yarns, and just a plain vanilla sock pattern. I wasn't going to talk about this because I've talked about these the last few episodes, onto the second sock, but I did have a funny story with these ones this week. During the week, I always like to have a small project like these that just lives in my handbag or my work bag, and then I just take everywhere with me. So I always have some knitting with me if I end up sitting and waiting, or for commuting or whatever. And I just couldn't find these. I mean, I'm a bit of a... Marie Kondo would probably have a stroke if she saw how I lived. A bit of a hoarder and pretty messy. So it's not unusual for me to lose things temporarily, but they always show up. and it had been a few days and I just couldn't find these socks, and I thought, oh, maybe they're just in a different handbag. But then I looked through all my handbags, all my 3 handbags, and I couldn't find them anywhere. And I thought, when was the last time I saw them? And it was last weekend when my friend and I went to the cinema to see The Favourite, which is very, very good. I love Olivia Colman, and she was just amazing. It's a great film, highly recommend. Like, the direction is really incredible, the way it's structured is really fantastic. Highly recommend. But anyway, that was the last time I could actually physically remember having these in my hands. So on Thursday, I swallowed my pride. That was when I realized, I thought, I'm gonna have to call the cinema, and a very bizarre phone call to the cinema confirmed that I did in fact leave my knitting there. So I went and picked them up. The very sweet but very confused cinema employee at Dendy Cooperoo, shout out, were very helpful. But when he gave it to me, he pulled it out of the bag and he said, from what you said on the phone, I thought this was a sock for an adult human. Yes, this is a sock for an adult human, rib stretches, but it was just, it's a typical Elina story, unfortunately. That's just the kind of thing that happens to me all the time. And I feel like it happens to everyone else as well, but with greater frequency in my life. But still didn't get to work on these very much because they had a 4-day holiday at the cinema, but still loving them. I probably won't show them again until I finish. I wouldn't have shown them this week if it weren't for that ridiculous story, but got some socks on the go. And I do have one imminent cast on that unfortunately is going to have to precede all my other knitting. So in 2 weeks I'm going down to Melbourne again. It's my auntie's 80th birthday and we're having a bit of a party for her, which is going to be super fun. Because we all kind of live all over the place, it's very rare that the family is all in the same place at the same time, so it's going to be really great to see everyone. There's a couple of my cousins that I don't get to see very often, so I'm really excited to be able to see them. But when I saw my auntie over Christmas, she was up at the beginning of December actually, we were having a family barbecue and I was just like knitting while we were chatting, and she leans over to me and she says, Elina, would you be able to knit me a hat? And I was like, oh, of course, obviously. Because she'd had a hat that she had given away to a friend, and she's like, well, you can't ask for it back. But she then realized she really missed having a kind of a little beret style beanie, and she said, if I asked, it's like, can you find a pattern so I can knit one? And I was like, can I find a pattern for a beret? I don't know. So what I did is I just went on Ravelry. She'd vaguely described, I was like, oh, what kind of hat was it? She vaguely described it to me. And so I just went on Ravelry and found 5 or 6 patterns that looked like the description that she'd given me, and I emailed her pictures and I said, are any of these similar to what you want, or is there something different? Because really, like Ravelry, anything you can possibly imagine there will be a pattern for. And so she picked one of them, and she decided she wanted it in a wine color. I did get some yarn for it because it was kind of due to my own lack of organization. Kind of too late to order from anywhere, so kind of had to go with what I could. I went to Lincraft, who have grossly depleted their yarn selection, which is disappointing. So this is from the Lincraft European collection. It's just a wool acrylic blend. My auntie wanted a nice wine color, and this was literally the only wine colored yarn that Lincraft had. It's fine, it's not scratchy at all. I'm incredibly sensitive and I can have it next to my skin and it's fine, so this will be great for her. Also, I didn't want to get anything, I wanted to get her something that was very easy to care for. She has knitted and stuff, but when you're giving someone a gift, you don't want to give, I mean, some people you can give them a high maintenance gift. I didn't want to give her a high maintenance gift. So the pattern that she picked was a free one, which was very nice of her. She didn't know that. So the patterns I sent her, I just kind of looked for ones that matched her description. Some were free, some were paid for. I mean, I didn't care, but this was a free pattern. It's a woolly worm head one, and it's called the Mere, which I think it was a mystery knit along when it was originally released. So it's like the mystery beret. And I'll pop a picture in. But it's just a really cute, easy beret. I mean, hats don't take that long to knit. Just got a little bit of lace. This is about a kind of like a Arony worstedy weight. This yarn's probably more of a DK, but I had a look through the Ravelry projects and there's plenty of people who've done it with a DK weight. I did a little gauge swatch yesterday. I'll be knitting it on a 5mm needle. So that shouldn't take me too long at all, but I mean, obligation. I mean, it's always nice when people who you love want you to knit things for them, because it's just nice to be able to give people gifts that they want, but also it's an obligation knit, so it's the motivation is just pretty low. But I have less than a fortnight before I head down, so I need to get it done probably this week or next week. Yeah, but it's really great, and I'm really glad that she said something to me, because I wanted to make her something. I mean, it's her birthday, it's a big birthday, so I wanted to make her a present, but she's has very specific taste and has like audibly commented when things that my mum or I have made have not been to her taste. So I did want to make her something, but she would be quite a hard person to make a surprise for, because she has very specific tastes. So I'm glad that she was able to pick something that she actually wants, and I'm going to be able to make her something, and I know that she's going to like it. So yeah, I'm really, really happy about that. And so I just have to get a wriggle on and cast it on. So that's kind of all the knitting that's been going on for me recently. And I haven't really been I haven't been thinking too much about anything else at the moment. Because I'm kind of midway through a bunch of projects, I haven't been thinking too actively about new cast-ons, but I do have a little bit of yarn in my stash that is just staring at me and can't wait to grow up into something. So it's going to be really fun to see what I get to cast on next, because actually the last thing I'll talk about is coming up at the start of February. I think it kicks off February 1st, is the Kanga Kiwi Knit Along, which is a super fun knit along hosted by the Wool Gathering Australia, to celebrate Australian and New Zealand yarn producers and pattern designers. So the premise is a really simple premise, that you just knit something by a designer from Australia or New Zealand using yarn from Australia or New Zealand. I think it goes for about 6 weeks, and yeah, it's a really fun knit along. I participated last year. I knit my Uradla shawl that I showed in my Christmas episode. I knit that shawl for the knit along last year. That's the Uradla shawl, which is a pattern by Jessica Gore of the Sweater Collective, and I knit it in Millpost Merino in their gorgeous apricot colorway, and I love that shawl. So I have a couple of ideas. I haven't really settled on what project I'm going to do yet. I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to pick my pattern before because I think the next time I record will be just around the time that the knit along kicks off. So stay tuned for the next episode to see what I'm going to be doing, but I will definitely be participating in the Kanga Kiwi knit along. I highly encourage you. I mean, it's open to people all over the world. If you have any Australian yarn or New Zealand yarn in your stash, but particularly for all the local babes, it's definitely a super fun knit along, and it's a really interactive one as well, so it's really fun. And actually, also, if you're in a capital city, I think most of them are in capital cities, but there are some regional ones as well. There's some like there's like some yarny meetups, so where you can meet up with other participants and have a little knit party. I'll link to the Ravelry group below that has all of the information about the knit along and the meetups, but if there's one nearby to you, I highly recommend going on and meeting some new yarny friends as well. So that's about all I have to talk about today. Please let me know what you're knitting down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, feel free to either leave them below or hit me up on Instagram or Ravelry. That crow would definitely like to hear from you as well. But yeah, if you do have any questions, I'm always available, always happy for a chat. Other than that, I hope you all are keeping really well. And yeah, I can't wait to see you next podcast. So take care, happy knitting, and I'll see you next time. Bye.